Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Future is Female. I'm your host, Nicole Pinter, alongside the legendary Gabby Ducharme, as always, live from the Bill Austin Radio Studio. We have a lot. There's a lot of sports news this past week. And excuse my voice, because allergies are beating my you-know-what this weekend. What do we got? A lot of NFL news, like a lot. We have a top 5 GOAT debate, a little bit. Women's college basketball, ASU and Michigan as always. And the WNBA roundup, finalized by our future fantasies. First off, Gabby, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited to rip into a bunch of NFL news. It's not my area of expertise, and I didn't realize that rejoiner was for traffic jam from a million years ago. I'm not sure when we were 13:30 a.m., but when I heard that, I was like, what? So that was a little bit of a shock, but otherwise I'm doing good. It was a pretty productive day, so I had my internship today and stuff, so that was pretty exciting. And you and I are finalizing plans to go to Disneyland, so I'm excited.
Make a sec.
Thank you.
Yeah. That was a pretty good Barack Obama impression, though, I will say.
That was.
So we start off with the AFC Championship game, and boy, thank goodness we got a game, because at first it didn't really seem like it. The Bengals beat the Chiefs in overtime, 27-24. The Chiefs led 21-3 with just under 6 minutes left in the first half, and they failed to score a touchdown on a touchdown attempt just before the half, which proved to be the difference in not taking the field goal there. The Bengals defense adjusted, though, in the second half. They went from playing a 2 men in high coverage, which was proven to be the key to beating the Chiefs this season, to 1 man and lived to tell the tale, and a 3-man rush. And they got to Mahomes. Mahomes looked rattled in the second half and into overtime, too. Even though the Chiefs won the coin toss in overtime, everyone thought, it's over. We get to complain about overtime rules again. Burrow didn't even get a chance. Bengals are like, nope, defense wins championships. They validated my beliefs. And Mahomes threw a pick, which was his second of the day in overtime, which proved to be the difference. Gabby, what were your thoughts on this game?
Number 1, why did you have to try and score a touchdown right before halftime? Number 2, Pat Mahomes, you've got some work to do this offseason. Number 3, Joe Burrow, welcome to the Super Bowl, my friend. Second season, first quarterback, first player ever to possibly win the Heisman Trophy. What is it? It's Heisman Trophy, National Championship, and Super Bowl. And I think, well, no, he would be the first to do that, like, maybe within a certain amount of time. He's like going to make history if he accomplishes all 3. I couldn't have predicted the Bengals were going to be here in November. No way. No way could I have predicted that. That overtime had me... I didn't really care who won. I really didn't. I didn't really care who won. I kind of wanted to see the Bengals win, though, just because I wanted to see the upset. I could see what was happening, and I wanted to see the upset. Nicole, your thoughts?
Yeah, and to your point on Burrow making history, he would be the first to do all 3. The 2 quarterbacks to win a national title and a Super Bowl, or actually both Joes, Joe Namath and Joe Montana. So he'd join a illustrious group of Joes in some sense. The key to this is clearly being named Joe, which is kind of funny to see, but he would be the first to do all 3. But yeah, this game was nuts. I mean, to see the Chiefs completely collapse like they did in the second half. I mean, and give credit to the Bengals defense, because while the Chiefs collapsed, the play calling on both sides was really bad. So giving credit, Bengals defense deserves most of the credit here, because that adjustment in the second half was huge. And it's adjustment we haven't really seen any defense against the Chiefs do all season. It was really impressive. And that DC might have earned himself possibly a head coaching interview after all this is said and done. But
especially if they win.
Yeah.
If they pull it off. If they actually defeat the Rams when the Rams are playing in their home stadium, no less.
Yeah. I mean, I know we all love Joe Burrow, and it was really impressive by Joe Burrow, but the Bengals defense won that game. They won the day. Burrow did his job, and he played great, don't get me wrong, but the Bengals defense won the day. But it was still quite a collapse from the Chiefs. I mean, Mahomes, I've never seen Mahomes look more rattled than he did in the second half. I mean, and they weren't even getting a crazy amount of pressure, but you could just see him second guessing himself and like overthinking things. Because even when they were before half in the red zone and had a chance to score, he had McCole Hardman not out in the flat, but he had him in a post route, not a post route. I forget what route it was, but he was in the end zone. He had him for like 2 seconds, which is a lot of time, more than you think when you're in the pocket. And he just decided to run around. Anytime he had receivers, Mahomes just decided to run around and tried to do the Russell Wilson thing. And it didn't work. It didn't work once for him. And I don't know what happened. And let me reiterate, the play calling was bad on both sides. The play calling was really bad.
The meltdown by the Chiefs at halftime, right? The meltdown into the second half, that them losing this football game, it was reminiscent of the Falcons a few years ago in the Super Bowl. That's what it was reminiscent of. It was reminiscent of the juggernaut team, right? I think Matt Ryan that season won NFL MVP.
Yeah.
The Falcons were expected to win. Even though it was Tom Brady, who's the Patriots. The Falcons, I feel like, were expected to win that game. Same thing here. Especially here. The Patrick Mahomes should have been going to the Super Bowl. That's a disappointment. You're Patrick Mahomes. You've won MVP. You won a Super Bowl. It's your 4th straight time playing in this football game. You had home field advantage. You should not have squandered that lead, and you did. That's what it reminded me of.
I'm going to say 2 things to that. And we're going to move on to the NFC Championship game. One is comparing the Chiefs and the Falcons as juggernauts is kind of hilarious. I'm sorry. But that's just... Wow. I give you credit for that one. I don't know about that one, Chief. But 2, imagine, and I'm going to end on this. Imagine how different the narrative is. And I know it's whatever, sports reporters thing, whatever. But imagine the narrative if the Chiefs did not come back to beat the Niners in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And you have Mahomes lost an AFC Championship game, lost a Super Bowl, and then lost another Super Bowl, and then lost an AFC Championship game. That's really interesting to think about because they were pretty close to doing that. And I'm not trying to come out here and set any agenda about Mahomes and Andy Reid and like they're not as good as we think they are. But it is interesting to think about. Is how different do we talk about Mahomes? Because everyone wants to set him as a Hall of Famer, right?
Right.
And I agree. He's one of the best we've seen. But it is interesting to think about. Despite some heroics, we're like a quarter away from Mahomes having lost. Again, great accomplishment in 4 straight AFC Championship game, Super Bowl, Super Bowl, AFC Championship game. That's nothing to sneeze at. But all I'm saying is it's interesting to think about. Pondering that yourself. ESPN will probably do it for you at some point too. But the NFC Championship...
ESPN has a long time until that next football game after the Super Bowl, so yes, they will do it.
Yeah. I will admit it is kind of interesting to think about. NFC Championship game, the Rams came back to beat the 49ers 20-17. Sean McVay ends a 6-game losing streak to Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. He was 0-6 previously. Matt Stafford, who was traded from the Detroit Lions last year, like around this time, is going to his first Super Bowl after winning his first 3 playoff games now. And this is the 2nd straight team to be in the Super Bowl in their own stadium, which is kind of crazy to think about how it just didn't happen before, and now it's happened 2 straight years. They will be the away team, though. And like I said, hypothetically speaking earlier, if they wear those bone jerseys, I swear on my life I'm driving to LA to talk to Sean McVay personally. You either wear the white, or Cincinnati's wearing the white, and you're wearing those gorgeous blue and gold, or whatever shade of yellow it is. Those are your only options, LA. Don't mess it up. Gabby, what did you think of this game?
Oh my gosh. Excitement. Exciting. I'm from Southern California. How fun is it that the LA team hosts the Super Bowl, and they're playing in the Super Bowl. It's so exciting. The LA Rams. I heard this on the radio this morning when I was listening to Colin Cowherd. He said the LA Rams are like a resurrection site for certain players. He was specifically discussing Matt Stafford and OBJ because OBJ, his career was in shambles, or maybe not in shambles, but it wasn't looking too good when he was getting traded away from Cleveland, right? Wasn't looking too good when he got released by them. He joins LA, and all of a sudden, he gets 9 catches, 11 targets. He's all over the field. And then Matt Stafford, 13 years. 13 years of disappointment, of an organization that's been in shambles for decades, never getting close to the playoffs, let alone the Super Bowl of all things. And all of a sudden, he gets traded to the team that's literally all in on right now, we need to win, we need to win. We have this new multi-billion-dollar, building that we're in. We're in the biggest media market in the country. We've got to win, and we've got to win now. And Stafford's in the perfect situation for him because he's in a win-now situation as well in his 13th season. Just such excitement because when you can see all the pieces kind of come together at just the right time. You're playing at home. You're playing at home in the Super Bowl. Now, Tampa Bay did it last year, but last year was what it was with the COVID pandemic. I think it's just exciting. I'm going to shout out my old boss, too, at the Sparks. She just got a new job working at SoFi Stadium as a communications director, or communications of some type. I think she's working the Super Bowl in like 2 weeks. So I'm going to say shout out to her as well because the Rams are going to be in it.
It's funny you say like the excitement, Southern Cal, LA's hosting. That stadium's going to be mostly orange and black in 2 weeks. I mean, it was mostly red last weekend. Most likely, when you look at the Super Bowl prices, I don't know. Maybe a lot of those LA celebrities. It's a really good Super Bowl halftime show. We'll talk about the Super Bowl more next week. But it will be interesting to see because it was a lot of red last Sunday. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I'm happy for Stafford. I don't hate the Lions being from Michigan and only an hour away from Detroit and Ann Arbor. I am happy for Stafford because the Lions do have a bit of a place in my heart, a very small one, but they have one. They have a spot. So I'm happy for Stafford. However, I'm still cheering for the Bengals come 2 weeks. But yeah, you're right. This was a team in a win now situation.
Yeah.
And by their own design, right? So see if they can get it done.
I felt kind of bad for Jimmy Garoppolo because you read the articles about him. He knows he's getting traded. He's known since last April when his team drafted Trey Lance, gave up all those picks for this one particular QB who's now been waiting in the wings for a year. Of course, I kind of feel bad for him because he has to get traded. He knows it's coming. Playing under that kind of pressure could not have been easy at all over the last calendar year, and he handled it with absolute class. So I'm going to give him every ounce of credit there is that he played football and he just did it the right way. He kept his head down. He didn't complain. Because he could have easily walked away and said, I'm not coming back until y'all trade me. Like, I'm done. I can see where this is going and I don't want to deal with it. He didn't do that. And even in the face of losing in the championship game, he still didn't do that. So I'm going to give him credit as well.
Yeah, deservedly so. And we'll actually talk about Jimmy G in a little bit. The big story of today, however, and this is one that's not going to go away for a long time, but it's always been there. Brian Flores suing the NFL, New York Giants, Denver Broncos, and Miami Dolphins, alleging racism in hiring practices. This includes private texts from Bill Belichick, who either thought he was texting Brian DeBull or thought that Brian Flores got the job. It's one of those two. The lawsuit was filed in Manhattan federal court, alleges racist hiring practices by the league, seeking unspecified damages from the NFL. I have this twice for some reason. The lawsuit says that Stephen Ross, Dolphins owner, said he'd pay Flores $100K for every Dolphins loss in the 2019 season to tank for the number 1 draft pick, or just a better draft pick. Ross was mad when Flores kept winning. The Dolphins finished 5-11 that year with a 6th overall draft pick, which they picked Tua Tagovailoa, in the 2020 NFL draft. On the Giants side, Flores received these texts from Bill Belichick. They're really sad to read, to be honest, because there was genuine excitement from Flores. I know it's text messages, but you can feel the vibe. Learned that DeBoll was chosen and still had to go to dinner with Joe Schoen, who was the Giants GM, and had to sit through dinner knowing that they had their pick. And this is not new for any minority coach in the NFL, unfortunately. On the Denver Broncos side, and I'm going to read straight from the lawsuit. This is paragraph 21 on the 8th page. You can read it for yourself. It's on Twitter. 58 pages in all. Starting quote, "Incredibly, this was not Mr. Flores' first sham interview that was held only in an effort to comply with the Rooney Rule, which is the rule that was instituted by the NFL back in, I want to say, the early 2000s, late 1990s, in an effort to hire more minority coaches. However, then the Broncos' then general manager, John Elway, president and chief executive officer, Joe Ellis, and others showed up an hour late to the interview. They looked completely disheveled, and it was obvious that they had been drinking heavily the night before. It was clear from the substance of the interview that Mr. Flores was interviewed only because of the Rooney Rule, and that the Broncos never had any intention to consider him as a legitimate candidate for the job. Shortly thereafter, Vic Fangio, a white man, was hired to be the head coach of the Broncos," end quote. And this is also interesting because even just today, even earlier, it was reported, albeit by a not super reliable, and this is coming from a Michigan fan who knows a lot of these sources, a not super reliable source in Chris Ballas of On3, that Harbaugh, who is interviewing with the Vikings tomorrow, is said to be pretty much a done deal, right, that he's going. And the Vikings tweeted out sometime earlier today, that they had completed an interview with, excuse me while I look for this, because I'm honestly not, I forget the name, but they completed an interview with a black head coach for the position. So it'll be interesting to see, is this true? With Patrick Graham, who's the offensive coordinator of the Giants. Yeah, they tweeted this out an hour ago. And that's an hour following the Harbaugh report. Are either true? Or is the Harbaugh thing true? I don't know. We're going to talk about that more when it's official. This is from your resident Michigan fan. I'll believe it when I see it.
You can't see her right now, but she's wearing like a little Michigan sweater. It's really cute and it's very soft, but she's literally wearing Michigan gear right now as we sit.
This is for the women's team. We're going to talk about them later.
Yeah, but yeah. This is for the women's basketball team. We'll discuss them after our break.
Yeah, but so all that being said, time and time again, this continues to happen as my computer has trouble with the AC Wi-Fi. Love that. This statement came from Brian Flores earlier today. Quote, "God has gifted me with a special talent to coach the game of football, but the need for change is bigger than my personal goals. In making the decision to file the class action complaint, I understand that I may be risking coaching the game I love," end quote. The NFL released a statement that I should have been better about having up instead of trying to pull it up right now, but oh my God, there's so much Tom Brady stuff. Stop it. But regardless, the NFL released a statement. While I pull it up, Gabby, what are your thoughts on this?
The lawsuit, people are so shocked to see it. They're shocked to see that it's coming to light, that it's finally getting talked about. But it's probably a lawsuit that should have happened 2 decades ago. Probably more than that. 3-4 decades ago. This league, the NFL, as exciting as it is, as excited as we were over the weekend about, these historic matchups, the juggernaut quarterbacks, the wide receivers coming back into the fold, the young upstart team making it to the Super Bowl, as excited as we were about those storylines, what's embedded in this league's history is bigger storylines like this one, which involves racism, it involves bigotry, it involves being completely behind the times. It involves being generations behind where they should be right now. The Rooney Rule shouldn't exist. It shouldn't exist because you shouldn't have to force their hand to know how important it is to have diverse voices in the room. But it has to exist as a means to hold them accountable, right? And when you're holding them accountable, they just do it in name rather than doing it because they care. And Brian Flores stepping up, I'm going to give every piece of credit in the world to him. He could be putting his entire career on the line. He's only like 41 years old. He could have a long career of coaching ahead of him, but he's putting it all on the line right now because he's trying to fight for something bigger. And I give him every ounce of credit in the world because I wonder how many other coaches in this league that are considered a diverse voice or a minority voice, I should say, under, that Rooney Rule. I wonder how many others have felt the same way that he has felt and have been treated the same way that he has been treated. So I'm going to give him credit where credit is due because unfortunately this league has a very long way to go in keeping up with how to handle social injustice in this country, understanding how important it is to have diverse voices in the room. They've got a long way to go, unfortunately, and no amount of exciting AFC or NFC championship games or Super Bowls or player comebacks can shift the focus away or should shift the focus away from something as important as this.
Agreed. And this is the NFL statement before I go on. The NFL, quote, "The NFL and our clubs are deeply committed to ensuring equitable employment practices and continue to make progress in providing equitable opportunities throughout our organizations. Diversity is core to everything we do, and there are few issues on which our clubs and our internal leadership team spend more time. We will defend against these claims, which are without merit." Which, to say diversity is core, when it is just so obviously not true, is just, it's abhorrent. Ugh. I mean, this issue isn't new. Like, this issue isn't just Brian Flores. It's so many more. And I just want to read Mina Kimes. She had 2 quotes, and we're going to talk about her in a minute too, because she took the words right out of my mouth, to be honest. "Hire the best man for the job. If that was actually happening, there'd be more than one black head coach in the NFL right now. It's as simple as that." And she's right. Joe Judge wouldn't have been hired. Maybe Fangio would have, but Judge wouldn't have been hired. I mean, the only assumption with Brian Leftwich is that he is waiting in the wings to take over for Bruce Arians with Tampa. There's still we still don't know about Eric Bieniemy, but she's right. Everyone's like, well, why don't you just hire the best man for the job? Well, they're clearly not. And clearly when it comes to the Rooney Rule, it starts at the top. It starts with ownerships. And a lot of these owners are really old. In fact, most of them are. They are old. They're not just old, but they're white and they're men for the most part. Those are 3 very important characteristics for why more black head coaches are not being hired. Which Mina says here, one more thought. "People always ask for solutions, since the Rooney Rule isn't working. Other than diversifying ownership, the only thing we can do is call the decision makers out by name, which is exactly what Flores did today. And also, keep talking about it." And that's what we'll do. Because Mike Tomlin can not be the only black NFL head coach. And the only other black NFL head coaches that have been are under Tony Dungy's tree, who have worked with Tony Dungy.
And don't you think, going back, because you mentioned Mike Tomlin, it shouldn't also all fall on his shoulders to be the voice for black people who want to be head coaches in football. And that's what it feels like is happening right now. He's becoming like this token person without even wanting to be, without asking to be, just because the league refuses to hire other people who may look or sound or be like him.
In a sense, yes. I wouldn't say he's like, it's falling on his shoulders. I mean, in a sense, yes, I think it is. But also I think it's just always pointed out as like, he's the only one. Why is he the only one? He shouldn't be the only one. But there may be some merit to what you're saying. And that I have not looked into, to be honest. And I think there is.
My thought on it is, if there's only one, then people in the league by default will look to that one voice to kind of not speak for everyone, but to get their perspective, to get their opinion, right? Because,
I agree with that.
Because, like, a lot of times with even just diversity initiatives in general, people, obviously, you want to lean on those diverse voices to do it, but you don't want to put all the pressure on them to upstart the diversity initiative, right? You need allyship in this league, and there's not a lot of allyship right now because there's only one diverse voice in the entire league.
Yeah. And it should not be that way. Just wishing Brian Flores all the best. I hope he gets hired somewhere else because he absolutely deserves to be, and he's proven that. We are already running out of time. In other NFL news, Tom Brady officially retires, like officially this time. 22 seasons, 20 with the Patriots, 2 with the Buccaneers, 10 Super Bowl appearances, 7 wins, 5 Super Bowl MVPs. He has the record for the most touchdown passes with 624 and most passing yards with 84,250. He finishes with a 243 and 73 regular season record and was 35-12 in the playoffs. He won 3 MVP awards and was selected to the Pro Bowl 15 times. Might as well induct him now.
Yeah, what's the waiting period?
5
How many years? 5 years?
So 2027.
5 years? Is there... He spent... He was in the Super Bowl longer than his time waiting to get into the Hall of Fame. He won more times. He spent more years winning than he will waiting to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Anybody else see the irony there? Anybody?
It's just going to be so weird. Like, because you and I have grown up in a league that has had Tom Brady.
Yeah.
If nothing else is consistent in our time being alive, it's been Tom Brady playing football in the NFL. Like, that is the only consistency. So it's gonna be really weird. I'm really sad about it. I mean, and he's coming off an MVP season.
Yeah.
That's a great thing. Is he going out on top with a Super Bowl ring? No, but he still had an MVP season. And we'll learn the awards next week. So next week we're going to talk about whoever MVP is. But he had an MVP season.
Well, don't you think that's what's most admirable is the fact that he didn't have to be carted off the field? Like, he didn't wait until the game had kind of surpassed him. He truly decided when it was his time. Yeah. And I'm saying this as I'm literally tapping my watch. Like, it's his time. He's done. And to walk off with pride, with awards, to be able to literally and figuratively walk off on your own terms. That's exactly what he did. I mean, what more was there for him to accomplish?
Yeah. And we talked about it last week and we both agreed, like, yeah, this kind of feels like the year.
Yeah.
Where it's most likely that he retires every other year. You know, this has been a conversation for 5-6 years?
Yeah.
After every season. But everyone's like, no, he's not. It's just not happening. This is the first year where it was like, yeah, he might. And so it felt like everyone at the same time was like, yeah, okay, this could really happen. Yeah. But the fact that it did happen is still really weird. But obviously, with Brady, nothing but the best. Last thing before we go to a quick break, since Tom Brady is the GOAT, undisputedly in football, who are our top 5 GOAT? Because this has become the debate, somewhat in a somewhat odd fashion, with, you know, is Babe Ruth worthy of being in this debate? What about Wayne Gretzky? What about Michael Phelps? Let's just talk about our top 5 GOATs. Gabby, who are yours?
You mentioned one name, and I'm going to adjust mine because of that. My GOATs right now are Brady, LeBron, MJ, and Myers-Drysdale. And then my one adjustment, I had Diana Taurasi, but I'm going to adjust it to Michael Phelps.
Okay.
Those are my top 5. I'm going with Ann Myers-Drysdale because I think she was victim of her time. There was no social media in her time, and I don't think people realize how dominant she was on the basketball court, because she was just as good, if not better, than Diana Taurasi. But she's not talked about as much in history. But to me personally, if we're talking about the GOATs, we're not just talking about social media clout or how much coverage they got, but we're talking about literally what they were able to do on their particular field of play. And then I think the other four are pretty obvious. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Tom Brady, and then Phelps, obviously, greatest Olympian of all time. We just discussed Tom Brady for the last 10 minutes. MJ and LeBron, the two greatest human beings to ever be on a basketball court, at least on the male side. So those are my top 5. Nicole, what are yours?
Well, we agree on Michael Jordan and Phelps, obviously. But Michael Jordan, because Serena Williams is the greatest tennis player we've ever seen. I really wish she could come back and win one more Grand Slam title, but her daughter is adorable, and she deserves to spend time with her.
Olympia!
But, Serena is just beast. She's amazing. Michael Phelps, greatest Olympian ever, greatest of all time, also a beast in his own right. Just sworers never get enough credit when it comes to anything. You can't have a GOAT debate or talk without Michael Phelps or Serena Williams, might I add. If you're going to make a graphic with the GOATs, which Serena was on the Bleacher Report graphic, but it better include these two. Tom Brady, obviously, and the one I've seen, oh my God, one I've seen no one talk about is Simone Biles. So I'm going to bring her up just because of that. Simone Biles is the greatest gymnast, at least you and I have seen.
Yeah.
She's incredible. She's a GOAT in more sense than just on the mat and on the bars and on the beam. In what she did this past Olympics, which is really weird to think we're 2 days away from the Winter Olympics starting. Time isn't real.
We're 2 days out?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, my brain, I can't. I feel like Tokyo just happened.
Oh, because it kind of did. And Simone was...
Thank you, global pandemic.
Yeah. And Simone, in sticking up for herself and her mental health and doing what was best for her, is a GOAT in that sense too. Those are my 5 GOATs. We're going to take a quick break and come back with one more NFL story and run through everything else we have. This is The Future is Female on Blaze Radio and BlazeRadioOnline.com. And welcome back to The Future is Female on Blaze Radio and Blaze Radio Online, live from the Bill Austin Radio Studio. And we come back with my favorite sports reporter, NFL insider, Mina Kimes. My absolute favorite. I'm sorry, Sarah Spain. I love you too. But Mina Kimes takes the cake for me.
Shout out, Sarah.
Yes, friend of the show, friend of the program. Versus Jeff Garcia, who was a 49ers quarterback way back when. If you don't know him, that's okay. Because most people probably didn't before this week. So if you don't know what happened, Jeff Garcia, well, start from the beginning. Mina Kimes was on First Take, and they were talking about the 49ers win over the Packers ahead of the 49ers NFC Championship matchup with the Rams. And to paraphrase, she basically said the 49ers won with Jimmy Garoppolo, but not because of him. That he's, can't rely on him. You can't, I'm mincing words. This isn't exactly what she said. But, yeah, criticizing, and rightfully so, criticizing Jimmy Garoppolo. Jeff Garcia had some issue with this. He was on Instagram, I believe, or Twitter. I don't have the comment up, but basically saying, who is Mina Kimes? She's never thrown a football. Why are we having people who have never thrown a football talk about professionals doing it? And the internet very abruptly rushed to Mina's defense. And then, well, Jeff Garcia went on anywhere he could be heard or listened to continue to demean Mina and anyone else who was criticizing him for said criticism, but it wasn't criticism. It was misogyny. It was just outright misogyny by Garcia. And then following the 49ers loss and Jimmy G's not so great interception against the Rams that sealed the deal, Garcia went private on Instagram and deleted his Twitter account. And he is running, and there's a great Yahoo Sports article on this that I highly recommend you read by Shalise Manza Young. talking about how, yeah, he can just run from this and never see it. But women in sports deal with this all the time.
Yep.
And it is so gratifying to just see him run and be a coward at the same time. As this Yahoo Sports article says, it is a weak and childish reaction from someone who made weak, childish arguments. Gabby, what were your thoughts on this?
Can you read that quote back one more time from the Yahoo Sports article? Because those are my thoughts right there, my dear.
It is a weak, childish reaction from someone who made weak, childish arguments.
Bingo. Yeah, I mean, just what were you thinking? You're really going to challenge ESPN's essentially top NFL analyst / reporter who's like never once missed a beat, never once had a source wrong. Maybe she's had an opinion or a prediction that was wrong, but who in the human race hasn't been wrong about a prediction? She made a prediction, my dear, and she was right about it. And rather than coming out, apologizing, and owning up to your bigoted cowardice out of cultural dynamic, not 2022 ways, you decided to run. And it was kind of funny. You ran, and Mina Kimes treated it like a professional, the same way she always does. I met her several months ago at a basketball game, and she was nothing but welcoming. When you chat with her, she doesn't treat you like you're below her, even though she has reached the magnitude of stardom that she has. She's quiet, she's quaint, she's professional. And that's how she was here, too. She was professional. She wasn't quiet here. Good thing that she wasn't quiet here, but she was professional. I give her every ounce of credit in the world. She could have reacted so poorly to this, and she didn't. She rose above the same way that, in honor of National Girls and Women in Sports Day coming up, I think this week, she reacted the same way that women in sports have had to react for generations.
Yeah, and had to react to save faith, save the job that you still have. And it doesn't have to be like this. Garcia can just run when women deal with this all the time. And let's not mince words here. There are so many men who cover the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, MLB, who have never played the sport in their damn lives, let alone the sport they're covering. Right? I don't have exact statistics on this, but there are many men, and let's stick with the NFL here, or narrow it down to the NFL here, because that's what this is, who cover the NFL, cover football, whatever level. They've never played football. Sure, maybe they've thrown it with their kid in the backyard. They've never played the game, so why should they talk about it? And when it comes to this, quote unquote criticism by Garcia, I wonder why it's against Mina Kimes and not like anyone else who is covering football who has never thrown the ball, never played football at any level. Let's think about this long and hard now. It's just women in sports shouldn't. Let's all just be a little bit better tomorrow. And the internet reaction to this was overwhelmingly supportive of Mina, which was fantastic. And I think I even had a Twitter interaction with someone where no woman should have to, deal with this.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have to, oh, well, Mina's strong enough to endure this. Sure, but not everyone is, and not everyone has to be, not everyone should have to be. And it's just, let's all just be better. Is what I'm going to end on, because I'm clearly tired and forgetting words.
The last point I'll bring up is, the crazy part is Adam Schefter is like the top reporter for the NFL. As far as I understand, he didn't play in the NFL. He didn't play college football. And yet he doesn't get this same amount of, I'm just going to say BS, because of rules and college radio, we can't cuss. Schefter doesn't get that kind of blowback. Adrian Wojnarowski, he never played college basketball. He wrote for the school paper. He doesn't get this kind of blowback. Oh, you don't know enough because you didn't play the sport. Yeah, well, there's a lot of men who cover this league at the national level who never, quote, played the sport. I don't hear you complaining about them or their opinions or hot takes or in-depth reporting that they do on a daily basis. Hold them to the same standard. Which means the standard that you hold women to is too high. It's too high. It's unrealistic. The amount of men that would be dragged down by aggressive opinions like this, it would be so much worse than women who are getting dragged down by it. And women have been forced to deal with it for generations. Oh, you didn't play the sport, ... Well, there's a lot of you that are reporting on the sport that are the same gender as those dudes in the NFL, and you never played it either. So I don't want to hear it.
And even the final thing I'll say to that point is you can cover a sport if you've never played it.
Yeah.
You can study the game. You can watch film. You can watch it since you were little and just pick up on what you should do versus what you shouldn't and grow from that. Like, anyone can do it, right? So, yeah, it's just cowardly by Jeff Garcia. And you know what? You were a terrible 49ers quarterback, buddy. So you being a coward, it's just gratifying. Mina Kimes reigns supreme, as always. Moving on, though, women's college basketball. The Sun Devils had a bit of a tough one today. Gabby, can you walk us through that?
So Arizona State, they had like that 3-week break. They didn't want to, but they all got knocked out due to the pandemic, just like all of us have over the last 2 months. They had a makeup game today against Oregon on the road. So they had a very short week wherein they played this weekend, once again on the road, came home like late Sunday night, and on Monday they were off on another plane flying to Eugene. They lost today, 72-58. Myles Giles went for 16 points, 7 boards, and 5 assists. She's the star transfer from Rutgers who now plays at ASU. Just a really wonky midweek makeup game that the Pac-12 and the NCAA and the teams are trying to fit in. This weekend, there's no room for breathing. Arizona State will go up against Oregon and Oregon State again this weekend. Oregon is the number 15 team in the country. They are coming in with Niara Sabally. Yes, Sabally, Satu Sabali's little sister Niara, and USC transfer who went to Oregon for her junior season, Endia Rogers. They're the leaders, the heart and soul of this team. They're expected to be all Pac-12 players. They both dominated today against the Sun Devils. And something super eye-opening right now about all these games that ASU has to make up and that, teams like Stanford, UCLA, all of these teams have to make games up. Someone from the Pac-12 came out and said, quote, "There's not enough weeks to make all of them up. We can't follow our parameters and accomplish that," because the Pac-12 has a lot of parameters that teams are supposed to fulfill, wherein they won't play back-to-back. They won't play more than 3 conference games in a week. They won't play more than 5 conference games in 2 weeks. There's all these rules that they have to abide by. And there's not enough time left in the season for ASU to accomplish all of that and make up all 7 games that they missed over that 3-week span. Which makes you wonder, is it worth it to make up any of the games? If you're going to be forced to travel to 3 and 4 different locations in 1 week, have a short week, possibly play injured, put yourself at risk of more injury, is it worth it? I'm not sure it is. And I think today was kind of just a little bit of a microcosm of the bigger issue that's going on in NCAA athletics.
Yeah, and speaking of ASU athletics, we haven't even talked about the huge ASU news that happened over the weekend that I'm just remembering that we didn't do. We'll cover that next week. Because oh boy, ASU athletics, what a fun time that is right now. But yeah, it's a tough blow for the Sun Devils here, for women's basketball, because it's definitely been a growing pains type of year for ASU. Maybe not what was expected, and it's sort of been 2 years now. Okay, expectations were a little bit higher, but we're working through some things. It's not all bad, and to feel like it's just kind of over February 1st in a way.
Nicole, what's going on with your Michigan Wolverines and Naz Hillman?
Oh my God, she's incredible. Michigan on Monday night had a big top 5 win versus Indiana, 65-50. Naz Hillman led with 21 points, and Emily Kaiser led with 16 rebounds. This is their second top 5 win this season. They beat Baylor earlier this year, and the first one ever at home. It was the biggest home game in, at the very least, KBA's tenure and in Michigan women's basketball recent history, I'd say. Mays Rage, which is the student section, they showed up, they showed out. And KBA, I mean, the players obviously deserve this. KBA deserves this. She took over the program in, I want to say, 2012-2013 season. A team who had, not perennial losers, but they weren't big winners. They weren't what they have been the past 2 seasons. They'd only been to the tournament like twice, I think, and won 2 games. Not twice, but they'd only won 2 NCAA tournament games. And she's taken them nearly to the top, and it's just been incredible. I will say there were some issues last night. It was a 15-point win. They seemed to be in control of Indiana the entire time, but they turned the ball over 25 times. That can't happen. That's the only reason Indiana was still in this game, to be honest, is Michigan, they couldn't stop getting in their own way. And when it gets later in February, when it gets later in the season, that's going to matter a lot more. And I'm glad this happened now and they could still pull a win out of it, because that's something they got to work on. Yeah. We can't be turning the ball over 25 times and expect to win. It makes it really hard. And they went on like multiple 9-0 runs to get back up and to make up for that. And I'm not kidding, multiple 9-0 specifically runs. But yeah, that's not going to fly later in the season. So that's the biggest concern from last night, but still, incredible win, incredible atmosphere. Michigan will travel to Champaign, Illinois to face the Illini on Thursday. Let's keep it going. Go Blue. That's all I got.
Exclamation point, go Blue.
There is nothing else happening in Michigan sporting news. Nope, not a thing. It is just the Michigan women's, let me specify, because the men are playing right now and it's not looking great. It is just the women's team. In hockey. You know what? We'll get men's hockey too. It's just those 2. There's nothing else happening in the Michigan. Nope, not a thing.
Nothing?
No.
Nothing going on with that football program?
Not a thing.
Nothing going on with the head coach of the team?
No.
He's not interviewing with another team, league?
On National Signing Day? No. Anyway, when something becomes official, we'll talk about it. Because I have my sources, but...
Is Michigan Twitter is
Michigan Twitter is an upheaval right now. Well, I have friends on the inside, but oh my God, Michigan Twitter, relax, guys. Oh my, geez, you're giving me a headache. And it's okay. The only thing I'll say on it is it's funny because people were like wanted Harbaugh's head last year, and now we are like in a whirlwind that he might go. It's just kind of funny how things change.
That's what happens when you beat Ohio State and you make it to the national semifinals.
Somehow in those 60 days when we beat Ohio State and won the Big Ten title, like, things have gotten worse. Like, is this... Like, I saw someone post a meme, like, did you beat Ohio State, from Infinity War? Yes. What did it cost? Everything. Again, we'll talk about it when it becomes official. But to finish up, WNBA free agency opened up today. Gabby, give us the WNBA roundup to round us off.
Free agency officially began in the sense that players can sign deals now. So Breanna Stewart and Jewel Lloyd are both expected to re-sign with Seattle. I believe Jewel Lloyd already has. Those are 2 very key pieces to their championship team from 2020 in the WNBA wobble. Diamond DeShields is expected to possibly sign with the Phoenix Mercury.
Diamond, no.
Here's the thing, she's a restricted free agent, so Chicago can technically match the offer and bring her back. But then they're expected to possibly do a sign and trade to get her over to Phoenix. Phoenix is also chasing after Tina Charles. They don't have enough cap room for both of those star players, especially not Tina Charles. So there's going to have to be a lot of movement on that Mercury roster in the next few weeks. They may have to give up a couple players. They may have to cut some players. That team's got a lot of work to do in the front office. How will they make the cap room? That's a good question. Tune in next week and maybe we'll have some more information. Stephanie Dolson, she's leaving Chicago to go to New York. She's going back home to play with the Liberty. And it's only day one. This is day number 1, y'all. The next few days are going to be kind of chaotic around the league. ESPN finally did like a WNBA free agency show today, which was super cool. So yeah, that's the latest with WNBA Roundup, Nicole.
Losing 2 players off a championship team would be hard, but like Dolson, I get. DeShields, please no. Please, I love you. Please don't. Also, and this is a bigger issue, the only jersey I could get if I wanted to get a WNBA jersey right now, can we please fix that? You know what? That's a great transition. That's going to be my future fantasy. Can we get some more WNBA jerseys up in here? It shouldn't be this hard to find Candace Parker's jersey. It shouldn't be this hard to find Diana Taurasi's jersey. Like, come on, people. Let's get this going. WNBA is growing. Better keep up with it. That's my future fantasy. Gabby, what's yours?
In honor of wanting more access to attire, wanting more coverage of free agency, me wanting to work in the WNBA in just a few short months, how much enthusiasm there was around this city when the Mercury made it to the WNBA finals. Tomorrow is National Girls and Women in Sports Day 2022. So let's celebrate it well. Let's put up our glasses and have a toast. Let's make sure we wear our sneakers rather than our high heels. No open-toed shoes. There's too much glass shattering around us right now. Let's celebrate the victories. Let's celebrate. We're celebrating on our show right now. This show is a celebration of everything that National Girls and Women in Sports Day represents, because we prioritize it, and we ourselves are 2 women in sports. Production, media relations, radio, you name it, we touch every part on this show. So I'm going to raise a glass to this show tomorrow. The future is female is right next to National Girls and Women in Sports Day in the dictionary. Cheers to 2022 and the celebration being bigger and better every year after this one. That's my future fantasy for this week.
Word to that. And that's pretty much going to do it here on The Future is Female. We got through a lot in what still feels like a short amount of time. Again, time isn't real. It's also a circle. I've been Nicole Pinter with Gabby Ducharme. The Future is Female on Blaze Radio, blazeradioonline.com. Thank you for joining us. Follow us on Twitter. The Future is FE13. Where we post promos, and maybe I'll start posting memes again. I should get on that.
Yeah.
I should really get on that.
I should get on clipping up stuff from our show too, because we have good stuff.
Look at us. Catch us next week, same time, same place. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you all next week.